Segam Duwadadega. I greet you, my brothers and sisters. I am Gadalita Kuita of the Mohawk and Algonquin nations. In 1656, I was born in a village called Osolona on the south bank of the Mohawk River in what is known today as New York State. My father was one of the 9 chiefs of the Mohawk tribe. He married my mother, a gentle Christian Algonquin maiden. When I was 4 years old, the smallpox sickness came over my whole village. It seems as if everybody got sick. I got sick. For days and nights, my aunts took turns caring for me as I tossed in bed with a high fever. I could not even turn over because of the pain in my head and back. And whenever I could, I called for my mother, but my mother did not come. When the smallpox sickness had finally ended, most every family in our village had lost someone. My mother, father, and baby brother had all died. The pockmarks on my face never went away. My weakened eyesight did not get better. With the death of my parents, I became the daughter to my aunt and uncle, and in place of my father, my uncle was selected to serve as chief. Each evening, right after my new family had finished eating, I would fumble my way across the dark longhouse to fetch my uncle's pipe. No matter how careful I was, I always bumped into someone or something. One night I not only bumped into everybody, I bumped into everything. And that's how I got my name. Tekakwita, she who bumps into things. How we laughed that night. I was 11 years old. We had just moved across the river and into our village when the 3 men of God called Jesuits came to visit us. As a chief's daughter, it was my duty to serve our guests food and fresh water every day. I sensed peacefulness about these men. Such respect did they show our Creator when they talked to Him. 3 days later, the 3 men of God were gone. The people in our village who make the sign of the cross, or Catholics, say that the Creator's Son Jesus lived on our Mother Earth with men. He taught them to love one another and to love even their enemies. Love even our enemies? How my heart longed to know more about our Creator's kind Son. From that time on, I listened to all there was to be heard about Jesus. As the years passed, and in spite of my weak eyesight, my aunts taught me everything I would need to know in order to be a good wife. I could make moccasins, clothes, baskets, belts, and in time, I could make peace belts good enough for my uncle the chief to use in his peace talks. When my aunt said I was old enough to get married, to please them, I allowed them to put bright ribbons in my braid, colorful beads around my neck. Tekakwita, they would say. When you bring your new husband home, he can hunt with your uncle and he can help support our family. You know, it is the custom of the Mohawk people that every girl marries and raises a family. One day, my aunts even tried to trick me into marriage. A young brave was invited to our house, and I was told to serve him a bowl of corn soup. As the brave reached for the bowl, suddenly I realized that if he takes this bowl from me, it is a sign that I agree to marry him. I put the bowl down, quickly left the house. My aunts were very angry with me. I always did what my aunts told me to do, but when they told me to get married, I could not obey, because I felt the Great Spirit was calling me to a different kind of life. The Jesuit fathers lived in our village a few years before I took lessons to become a Christian. I was 20 years old when Father James de Lamberville baptized me on Easter Sunday, April 5th, 1676. He gave me the Christian name Kateri, or Gadali in my tongue. On that day, the Great Spirit filled my soul with such joy. I was never happier. After I was baptized, my aunts used my Christian faith against me because I still could not get married. I was not allowed to eat on Sundays or holy days because I no longer would work on those days. My aunt said that anyone who does not work does not deserve to eat. On those days, I fasted for Jesus. On the way to church, children began to throw stones or pebbles to taunt me. Sometimes men would laugh and jeer as I walked by. I walked a different path to get to church. Then one day, a man was hired to enter my house to scare me. As the man walked toward me, he raised his tomahawk to kill me. I bowed my head to die for Jesus, and that scared the man into running out of the house. My only friend, Father de Lamberville, wanted me to go live with Anastasia near Montreal. He thought that the people might really hurt me here. The day we left, my uncle came after us and said he would kill whoever took me from the village, but I hid in the woods until my uncle had turned back. About 200 miles and 2 moons later, my adopted sister's husband, his friend and I arrived at the village of the Praying Indians. It saddened me to leave my family and home, but my heart jumped at joy at seeing my mother's old friend Anastasia again. Anastasia asked me how I had lived since she was gone, and I told her I lived the same as when she was there. As soon as I could, I went to church to thank Lavanillo for bringing me safely to this village where people are free to pray whenever they want it. On Christmas Day, 1677, Father Chilinak said that I could receive my first Holy Communion. How honored I was for this privilege. After that first Christmas, most of us in the village went on the winter hunt. I did not think I could live those long winter months without receiving Jesus in the sacred host. But I went because I felt it was my duty to help. After the noon meal, while the others rested, I would walk to the edge of our camp. I carved a cross on one of the trees, and there in the woods, I went to talk to Lavanillo every day. After we returned to our village, someone told Father that I had sinned with a man while we were at the winter camp. I told Father it was not true. It was not true. My best friend Marie Teresa and I wanted to start a religious order like the nuns in Montreal. We were going to build a longhouse close to the village and live there. We would dress the same, work, and always pray together. But Father said no. He felt we were too young in the faith and that it was too dangerous for us to live on the island all by ourselves. We listened to all the stories about the saints, and we decided to devote our life to prayer and penance like they did. Before going to confession, Marie Teresa and I would take turns in whipping each other with a stick, and we would offer the pain up to Jesus on the cross. We wore belts studded with nails, and we worked in the fields, and we fasted twice a week. When Father found out what we were doing, he ordered us to stop. He felt that it was too dangerous for us. On Our Lady's Feast of the Annunciation, I pronounced my vows of perpetual virginity. Before going to communion, I did some penance with Father's permission. Shortly after receiving the sacred host, I promised Jesus that he would be my only spouse for as long as I live. It is Wednesday of Holy Week, April 17, 1680. I have been sick with a high fever. Father tells me to prepare to die as he gives me the last rites. Father said that my fever and my penance have been too much for me. Oh, how happy I am to be going home to Jesus. I bid my friends goodbye. I tell them I will love you in heaven. I will help you. I will pray for you. After whispering the holy names, Jesus, Mary, my spirit passed from this world. I lived on our Mother Earth 24 winters. 7 days after my death, I returned in a vision to Anastasia with this message. I showed her a brilliant cross and said, "Look at this beautiful cross." This cross was the source of all my happiness on earth. I would advise you to make it yours.